let's talk about these like older black belts. Like what how do you approach those type of roles? Like what do you do?
Well, first off, you just have to be like, you have to re-humble yourself. Again, this is an issue, right? Because it's like, if you're getting like, I like sometimes like there's days where I'll go into the gym and some of the big strong guys, they'll get the better of me. I don't want to stop doing it just because it happened. It's going to happen sometimes. Some days I'm just a little off and they're on, and they're catching up, right? For me, I don't think of it as like a race to the finish line. I think of it almost like as if like maybe you want to think of it as like a graph going up, showing the skill and ability.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is ours is up here, theirs starts climbing, and as theirs starts climbing, ours starts descending downward.
Yeah.
Because eventually you're in essentially a slow state of decay, right? I mean, so you're just like slowly losing a little bit. Like when you lift weights and stuff, a lot of times as you get older, you're just trying to slow it down. Like you can't, you're not, at some point you're not going to get bigger or stronger. You're just trying to slow down the loss of it.
Yeah.
And with jiu-jitsu, sometimes, you're not going to get any like more, you're not going to get better physically with your ability to execute techniques. So you're just slowing it down a little bit, and then you got to enjoy it for what it is. So you've got to, again, it's all about the movie really playing our head. It's fine to play one in the head, but you have to make room when a new scene comes in, right? Because like if say you get beat by some person and you're having trouble adapting because you are getting older, you hanging on to an idea of what you were like when you were 25 isn't really going to help you anymore when you're 40 or 45 or whatever. Like you can't train the same way. It is what it is. You've got to adjust, and trying to hold on to that rigidly is going to be a problem. I think that's the first thing. And again, this goes back to jiu-jitsu. You've got to humble yourself. We say it all the time, but then when we're in those situations, it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard. Like, I'm a black belt. I shouldn't be losing to a purple belt. I used to be able to beat this purple belt. Now he's beating me or something, whatever. You just have to humble yourself. You wouldn't tell some other person, if you were on the outside, you wouldn't tell them to quit or get upset about it. You'd be like, oh man, it happens sometimes. It is what it is. We just have to take our own medicine. But I think in all those situations, we have to humble ourselves. Now, when you roll with them, sometimes you just have to kind of take your licks. Again, a lot of times if you're a black belt and you're decent, even if you get beat by them, a lot of times you'll be able to protect yourself and not get caught in any weird spots and stuff like that. You just may not be able to sort of assert yourself on someone like you want to. Like, for instance, when I roll sometimes with Brandon, the big wrestler at the gym, like sometimes he's moving all over the place and, he'll pass my guard and stuff like that. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm not going to try to fight him too hard because I don't want to gas out. So I'll ball up and defend myself because I know, like with my defense, he's not going to submit me, right? Not yet anyway. So I'm like, I'm going to defend. And I'll escape eventually, you know what I mean? But again, it's one of those things where still I don't like getting my guard passed by one of my blue belts. It's what it is, though,
Asterisk blue belt.
It is what it is. And so it's just one of those things where you just have to adjust to that. And that's going to happen to all of us. Because even if you're not a black belt, if you're just climbing up in age, you're going to have to adjust your rolling depending on when if you started in your 20s or your teens, and then you're getting, all of a sudden you're in your 30s and 40s. You're going to have to adjust. I think this is one of the things that causes a lot of people who take big, long breaks and come back and they get themselves injured. Like, for instance, I had a guy that used to train with us who was a college wrestler, a D1 level wrestler, and he came back to jiu-jitsu, or came into jiu-jitsu, done a little bit, but came into grappling after a long layoff, and he was going like super fast. He'd always run into injuries. Like, what's because you're trying to be the guy that you used to be. Right, mentally you feel like the same person, but physically you're not. Right, and I think that's one of the cool things about jiu-jitsu is it does keep us in touch with who we're becoming physically. Because you think about like the guy who was a badass in high school or something or college, and he thinks he's like still there, and mentally because his body hasn't been updated. With he hasn't had an update on his software, so to speak, or his hardware.
Hardware, yeah. Software is still the same.
Software, hardware, yeah. So software, is it's not synced up with your hardware, and so when you roll though, you get a quick sync up. Oh crap! Like I'm exhausted. I can't do it. It's like for instance when we came back from the lockdown, you felt like the same person. You didn't feel any different. You start rolling, you're like, whoa, I'm exhausted. And then the next morning, you're like, I feel like I hit by a truck.
It's like I remember coming back, and I was like, do the move, do the thing, move, and I'm like, nope. Or it's like, oh, this is like taking me a second or two, and that doesn't work. If you're going to get somebody that's coming after you and you're just really late to respond, your timing's off. I think it's one of the big things, developing your timing.
Well, timing's one of the first things to go.
Yeah. Well, maintaining it, doing something consistently, that's how you maintain it.